This is Mark McCauley. I'm Vice President Government Affairs of the Nonprofit Alliance, and this is the monthly legislative update. Let me start with postal issues. Here, the Nonprofit Alliance is conducting a dual front strategy. Specifically, we've joined with the Alliance of Nonprofit Mailers in litigation in the Federal Court of Appeals challenging the Postal Regulatory Commission's granting of authority to the Postal Service to raise postal rates substantially in excess of the rate of inflation. The court heard oral arguments on this in September, and a decision of the court is expected later this year, or more likely early next year. If we prevail in the Federal Court of Appeals, we'll be in a very strong position, and future postal rate increases will be limited to the rate of inflation. However, we always hope for the best, but plan for the worst. And if we were not to prevail in federal court, the legislation on postal reform currently before Congress will become very important. To that end, the House Committee of Jurisdiction on Postal Issues reported out a postal reform bill earlier this year. The legislation had several positive provisions, including moving the very large retiree health care cost liability from the Postal Service and moving it to Medicare, where most retiree health care costs reside. But, and this is important, the legislation does not have language limiting future postal rate increases. Accordingly, we've been working with our allies in the House and Senate to see if we could have language added which would limit future postal rate increases. Let me now pivot to the Universal Charitable Deduction, a top priority of the Nonprofit Alliance. Here, individuals have a universal charitable deduction of $300 and married couples $600. This provision runs through the entire tax year of 2021, so all contributions before the end of the year would be eligible for it, but the provision expires at year end, and we're now working hard to have it extended into tax year 2022. To that end, Senator James Lankford, Republican Oklahoma, and Senator Chris Coons, Democrat of Delaware, have been extremely helpful. And we very much want to extend the universal charitable deduction and ideally raise the cap from $600 for married couples and $300 for individuals. On the area of the IRA Charitable Rollover, we have some good news. Earlier this year, the House Ways and Means Committee reported out legislation which would raise the $100,000 cap by indexing it to the Consumer Price Index. Thus, as the CPI, or in other words, inflation goes up, the $100,000 cap would go up. This legislation is expected to go to the House floor early next year, and the Senate is expected to adopt similar legislation. I cannot close a summary without mention of the importance of national privacy legislation. Clearly, the multi-trillion-dollar aid packages, in particular the current Build Back Better package of nearly $2 trillion, and other issues have been crowding out privacy legislation. That said, we continue to work closely with our allies in the House and Senate on this. We anticipate this will be an issue more likely to be taken up into the next Congress, which is not that far away. It's just a year away. And we've been in very close dialogue with a number of our friends in both the House and Senate, emphasizing the importance and the need for one national rules of the road on privacy, rather than being subject to 50 individual state privacy laws. I hope this has been helpful, and I wish everyone a happy holiday season.